Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And I'm Erica.
And today we're bringing you an advanced lesson for all of our advanced learners out there.
That's right. And in this lesson, we're visiting a history class.
Yes, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic that's known around the world, which is International Workers' Day.
That's right. And we're going to learn a little bit about the history of the workers' movement in the United States.
Right, but we're also going to be taking a look at some great words and, of course, a little bit more advanced or complicated structures.
That's right. So I guess without further ado, we can get started with the dialogue.
All right, everyone, settle down. Let's get started. As you know, an important aspect of becoming a good citizen is understanding the genesis of our legal system. It's not enough to simply memorize our laws. It's necessary that we comprehend why and how they were formed. This brings me to our topic for today. Does anyone know what we celebrate on May 1st?
Cinco de Mayo.
No, that's May 5th in Spanish, James. No wonder you're failing my Spanish class. No, May 1st is International Workers' Day.
Do we get a day off from school then?
No, it is not considered to be a national holiday here in the U.S., but in other countries it is.
Oh, man.
In the 19th century, working conditions were appalling, with workers being forced to work 10, 12, and 14 hours a day. Support for the 8-hour workday movement was growing rapidly, despite the indifference and hostility of many union leaders. And by April 1886, 250,000 workers were involved in the May Day movement. Previous legislative attempts to improve working conditions had failed, so labor organizers took drastic measures. They passed a resolution stating that 8 hours would constitute a legal day's work. And on May 1st, 1886, the resolution took effect.
Cool. Is that why we only work 8 hours now?
Yes, but the happy ending came at a high price. On May 3rd, 1886, police fired into a crowd of strikers at the McCormick Reaper Works factory, killing 4 and wounding many. A mass meeting was called for the next day to protest the brutality.
And then what happened?
Well, as we say, the rest is history.
All right, so we were in a history class and we learned something new, something interesting, right?
Yeah, International Workers' Day. It says it's not celebrated in the U.S., but in many other countries it is.
Right, on May 1st, a lot of people have a day off, so that's always good.
Yes.
All right, so why don't we take a look at some of the words that we saw in this dialogue, which were maybe a little bit different or difficult in language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, we're just going to look at 5 words here. And the first one, we talked about the genesis of the movement.
Right, Genesis.
Genesis.
Okay, so many of you may know that Genesis is a book in the Bible, right?
That's right, and that's where this word comes from. It's the first book in the Bible.
Mm-hmm. So it's the beginning.
Or the origin.
Origin. Mm-hmm. So that's a Genesis. So the genesis of our legal system, you would say.
Right, or the genesis of this problem.
Mm-hmm. So it's the origin.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a formal word, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess maybe you can say the origin or the beginning.
Yeah, but maybe in an academic setting, you can talk about the genesis.
Yes, very good. All right, what do we have next?
Well, one of the reasons why the workers' movement got started was because of the appalling working conditions.
Mm-hmm. Appalling.
Appalling.
If something is appalling,
it's shockingly bad.
Very, very bad.
Yeah.
So now if something is appalling, like the working conditions were appalling.
That's right.
You would feel appalled.
Exactly. I'm appalled at your behavior.
Okay. So it's almost like you are disgusted.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
Very, very strong word.
Yeah, very strong.
Okay. Okay, so the working conditions were appalling and people were setting up this movement, right? But what happened?
They met some hostility.
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 Hostility from the police, right?
That's right.
So what is hostility?
Hostility is the state of receiving an unfriendly reaction.
Okay.
They acted in a very unfriendly way, and it also suggests, a hint of violence even.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody is hostile, they can maybe be aggressive and maybe to a point violent.
That's right.
Okay. So a hostile person.
Yeah, or a hostile environment, a dangerous environment.
Okay, hostility, hostile. Very good.
Yeah. Now, because of these appalling working conditions, the labor movement decided to take drastic measures.
Drastic measures.
Yeah, drastic measures. This is a really wonderful phrase, and I think it would help us to listen to a few examples of this phrase in use.
Example 1. The president was faced with some difficult decisions and was forced to take drastic measures to solve the crisis. Example 2.
The police took very drastic measures to control the protesters outside the government palace.
So we understand drastic measures as extreme actions or decisions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's a saying that says desperate times call for drastic measures.
No, desperate times call for desperate measures.
Oh, dang. Well, okay, but it goes around there somewhere, right?
Something like that.
If you really have an emergency, you need to do something drastic.
You have to take drastic measures, or you can even say take drastic action.
Okay, very good. And what about our last word?
After the protests ended in violence, people started to get angry because of the brutality the police showed.
Okay, brutality.
Brutality.
So again, maybe brutality and hostility are maybe similar, right?
A little bit similar. So brutality is the state of being harsh or very forceful.
Okay, so brutality. Now, we also use the word brutal.
Right. So that means harsh or very forceful.
Now, sometimes we can use that word, but not in a harsh or forceful way, right?
Yeah, and it's quite, I might say something like, oh my God, that test was brutal.
It was brutal or...
So it was really hard or really difficult.
Right. So that's what you're saying with this word, that it's very hard or it was very intense.
Yeah, maybe one more example.
Okay, so for example, I can say, oh, I went for a run today and it was brutal. I'm so tired.
So it was really difficult.
Yeah. Brutal.
And Marco, is this something that's used by everyone?
That phrase, brutal, using in that context would be for younger people maybe. Not really, you wouldn't really hear older people using it like
so
that.
It's a little bit slangy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Great. So those are 5 interesting vocabulary words. As Marco mentioned, we want to look at some more difficult structures now in Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
Okay, so we have some phrases that we saw in this dialogue. And, well, let's start with the first one.
Well, the teacher opens his discussion by talking about how an understanding of the legal system is an important aspect of being a good citizen.
Okay, an important aspect.
An important aspect.
So, well, maybe we know the word important, right? So what's
Obviously.
an aspect?
A part of something, an important part of something.
Okay, so the teacher started with an important aspect of and then specified the idea or what part it belongs to.
Right, so it usually follows this form. Noun is an important aspect of noun.
Okay.
So, for example, quality control is an important aspect of keeping customers happy.
Okay, perfect. A part of. Very good. So aspect sounds a little bit more formal or just a lot more intelligent, right?
Yeah, professional. And actually, this is a wonderful way of setting up your idea.
So the teacher said that it's an important aspect of understanding the legal system was understanding its origins or its genesis.
Yep.
And then she moved on and said that it's not enough to simply memorize laws.
That's right. It's not enough to simply do something.
Okay. So the beginning of this sentence, it is not enough to simply something. Mm-hmm. By starting a sentence like this, you are indicating that more is required, right?
So here, it's not enough to simply memorize the laws. We're saying that most people just memorize the laws, but they need to go further.
And understand them.
Exactly.
Another example would be, it's not enough to simply pass your exams. You must get good grades as well.
Right. Or maybe in a business context. It's not enough to simply satisfy your customers. You must impress them.
Okay, very good. So that's a very good way of starting out this idea of more is required.
That's right. More is required.
All right.
All right. Well, I want to move on to one final point here. I found this sentence to be really, really interesting. They passed a resolution stating that 8 hours would constitute a legal day's work.
Okay, so why is this interesting?
Well, I found that, there's 2 verbs going on here. They passed a resolution that 8 hours would constitute a legal day's work. So we've got 2 verb times going on here at the same time. And I'm wondering about this one would.
Okay, so what's happening here? Obviously, this happened in the past. It's like about 100 years ago, right?
Right. So the resolution was passed 100 years ago.
Right? So this is going on in the past.
Right.
But there was a future action that was going to happen in consequence of this.
Right. So the resolution stated that 8 hours would constitute. So it's like the primary action was the passing of the resolution. And the result is this sort of this event that happens in the past but is a future event to the first primary event. Does that make any sense at all?
So this is called the future in the past, right?
That's right.
Okay, so it's a grammar structure. Many of you maybe know the simple present or the future tenses, but this is a little strange one. And as we said, so maybe it's a little bit difficult to understand the grammar in general. So why don't we take a look at some more examples of how we would use this future in the past?
Example 1. The president said that he would cut taxes by 5%. Example 2.
I made a promise that I would not smoke anymore.
Example 3. Carl told me he would buy a new car.
Okay, so now I think it's clear this whole idea of the future in the past, and we'll also be answering any questions on the site if you have any problems, right?
That's right.
Okay, so why don't we listen to the dialogue one more time, and then we'll come back and talk about this holiday, which is the International Workers' Day.
All right, everyone, settle down. Let's get started. As you know, an important aspect of becoming a good citizen is understanding the genesis of our legal system. It's not enough to simply memorize our laws. It's necessary that we comprehend why and how they were formed. This brings me to our topic for today. Does anyone know what we celebrate on May 1st?
Cinco de Mayo.
No, that's May 5th in Spanish, James. No wonder you're failing my Spanish class. No, May 1st is International Workers' Day.
Do we get a day off from school then?
No, it is not considered to be a national holiday here in the U.S., but in other countries it is.
Oh, man.
In the 19th century, working conditions were appalling, with workers being forced to work 10, 12, and 14 hours a day. Support for the 8-hour workday movement was growing rapidly, despite the indifference and hostility of many union leaders. And by April 1886, 250,000 workers were involved in the May Day movement. Previous legislative attempts to improve working conditions had failed, so labor organizers took drastic measures. They passed a resolution stating that 8 hours would constitute a legal day's work. And on May 1st, 1886, the resolution took effect.
Cool. Is that why we only work 8 hours now?
Yes, but the happy ending came at a high price. On May 3rd, 1886, police fired into a crowd of strikers at the McCormick Reaper Works factory, killing 4 and wounding many. A mass meeting was called for the next day to protest the brutality.
And then what happened?
Well, as we say, the rest is history.
All right, so Erica, in Canada, do you celebrate this?
We do, but not on May 1st.
Oh, really? When is it?
The first weekend in September.
Oh, really? And why?
I am not 100% sure. I think it's because we already have a long weekend in May because because on the 24th of May is the Queen Victoria's birthday, so we have to celebrate that.
Oh, really?
We can't have 2 vacations in the same month.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not productive, right?
Exactly.
Well,
what about in Ecuador?
Yeah, we do. On May 1st, it's a holiday, and we actually have 2 holidays in May as well, because on the 24th, we actually celebrate the Battle of Pichincha, which is one of the decisive battles for the independence of Ecuador. So we don't mind having 2 holidays in the same month.
Well, it sounds like Ecuador has a better holiday schedule than Canada. So
no, it is. So yeah, on May 1st, people take vacations, or companies usually on May 1st will do something special for their employees.
Oh, that's kind of a nice gesture, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's like it's Workers' Day, so they'll set up maybe a barbecue or a trip or something like that. So that's what usually happens on May 1st.
Have you ever thought about why most people today only work around 8 hours a day? Have you ever wondered what life was like before this rule existed? I'd like to tell you a story about that time. As you listen, think about how work has changed in your own country and feel free to share your own experiences. A long time ago, in the 19th century, life for workers was very hard. Factories were growing quickly, and many people moved from small villages to big cities to find jobs. At first, workers felt hopeful. They thought factory jobs would give them a better life. But soon, they realized the truth. The conditions were appalling. Men, women, and even children had to work 10, 12, sometimes even 14 hours a day. The workplaces were hot, crowded, and dangerous. There were no laws to protect workers. If someone got injured, they often lost their job immediately with no money to survive. Families struggled, and many people felt hopeless. But workers are strong when they stand together. Slowly, they began to talk about change. They asked an important question. Why should we work so many hours when we also need time to live, to rest, and to be with our families? This question grew into a powerful idea, the demand for an 8-hour workday. At first, many factory owners and leaders ignored the workers. Some even reacted with hostility. They did not want to give up their power or money. But the workers didn't give up either. Across cities and towns, more and more voices joined the movement. People marched in the streets, they gave speeches, and they encouraged others to believe that life could be better. By the year 1886, something big was about to happen. 250,000 workers, that's 250,000 people, were ready to take action together. They wanted the world to hear their voices. And so on May 1st, 1886, history changed. The morning of May 1st, 1886, was filled with energy. In city after city across the United States, workers left their factories and gathered in the streets. They marched with banners, shouting together, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will. For the first time, so many people stood side by side, united in their demand for justice. Some workers were nervous. What if they lost their jobs? What if the police tried to stop them? But their hope was stronger than their fear. They believed that if they did not fight for change now, nothing would ever improve. The protests were mostly peaceful at the start. Families came, children waved flags, and speakers gave passionate talks about fairness and human dignity. It felt like a festival of courage, and for a moment, people believed that history was truly turning in their favor. But not everyone was happy. Factory owners felt threatened. They worried that shorter working hours would mean less profit. Some union leaders also showed indifference, refusing to support the movement because they feared conflict. And, as expected, the police watched the crowds with suspicion. Their presence was heavy, and their eyes were cold. Still, on that first day, workers celebrated a small victory. The idea of the 8-hour day was no longer just a dream. It had been spoken loudly, written in newspapers, and carried in the hearts of thousands. A resolution had been declared. 8 hours shall constitute a legal day's work. But history teaches us that great victories often come at a high price. Just 2 days later, on May 3rd, 1886, the movement would face its darkest moment. On May 3rd, 1886, workers gathered outside the McCormick Reaper Works factory in Chicago. They were on strike, demanding better hours and fair treatment. The crowd was large and determined, but their protest was peaceful. People shouted, sang, and carried signs with the words, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest. Inside the factory, however, not everyone had joined the strike. Some workers, desperate to keep their jobs, continued to work. This angered the strikers outside, who felt betrayed. Tension grew quickly. Voices became louder, and arguments turned into pushing and shoving. Then the police arrived. Instead of calming the situation, they responded with brutality. Without warning, shots rang out. The sound of gunfire filled the air, and people screamed in panic. When the chaos ended, 4 workers were dead, and many more were badly injured. The news spread like fire through the city. Families mourned their loved ones, and workers everywhere were shocked and angry. The strike that had begun with hope now carried deep pain. People could not believe that peaceful protests had been met with bullets. Leaders of the movement quickly organized a mass meeting for the next day, May 4th, in Haymarket Square. They wanted justice, and they wanted their voices to be heard. Flyers were printed, calling people to come together and demand an end to violence against workers. Nobody knew it yet, but this gathering at Haymarket would become one of the most important and tragic moments in labor history. On the evening of May 4th, 1886, thousands of workers gathered in Haymarket Square in Chicago. The air was heavy with sadness after the tragedy at the McCormick factory, but it was also filled with determination. People wanted justice. They wanted to show that workers could not be silenced with violence. The meeting began calmly. Speakers stood on a wagon, raising their voices so the crowd could hear. They spoke about fairness, dignity, and the simple dream of an 8-hour workday. Families listened, and many believed that this was a peaceful way to honor those who had been killed. But as the evening went on, the police once again surrounded the crowd. Just as the speeches were finishing, something unexpected happened. A bomb exploded. The blast threw the crowd into panic. Nobody knew who had thrown it. In the confusion, the police opened fire. People screamed and ran in every direction. In the end, both police officers and workers were killed, and many more were wounded. The next day, the newspapers were full of anger. Instead of blaming the violence on the police, many papers blamed the workers and their leaders. Several activists were arrested and put on trial, even though there was no clear proof that they were responsible for the bomb. Some were even executed. The Haymarket tragedy shocked the world. For a while, the labor movement in the United States grew weaker as fear and suspicion spread. But the idea of the 8-hour workday did not die. It had already taken root in the hearts of workers everywhere. Slowly, the dream became real in many countries. Today, millions of people around the world honor May 1st, International Workers' Day, as a reminder of the sacrifices made in Chicago. So, the next time you finish an 8-hour day and go home to rest, remember this story. Remember the voices that shouted for fairness, the courage of those who stood together, and the lives that were lost, so that we could live with more balance and dignity.
Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. Relax. Become calm.
Settle down.
Part.
Aspect.
Origin. Beginning.
Genesis.
Understand deeply.
Comprehend.
The day that all people in a country will be on holiday.
National holiday.
Terrible, horrible, shocking.
Appalling.
Showing no interest in.
Indifference.
The attitude of treating something as enemy.
Hostility.
Relating to legal system.
Legislative.
Sudden and severe.
Drastic.
A formal document stating the wishes of a group.
Resolution.
Form. Consist.
Constitute.
Violent treatment or behavior.
Brutality.
Shoot guns into a place.
Fire into.
Describing an event that is done to honor and remember a person or event in history, in commemoration of. The lowest socioeconomic class, workers.
Proletariat.
A public meeting of a large group of people to support or oppose something.
Rally.
An official statement made by a person who has power.
Proclamation.
Something like a statue built to remember a person or event from history.
Memorial.
Let's try that faster. Shoot guns into a place.
Fire into.
Terrible, horrible, shocking.
Appalling.
Form. Consist.
Constitute.
Relax. Become calm.
Settle down.
Violent treatment or behavior.
Brutality.
Relating to legal system.
Legislative.
The attitude of treating something as enemy.
Hostility.
The lowest socioeconomic class, workers.
Proletariat.
Describing an event that is done to honor and remember a person or event in history, in commemoration of. Sudden and severe.
Drastic.
Part.
Aspect.
Origin. Beginning.
Genesis.
A formal document stating the wishes of a group.
Resolution.
Something like a statue built to remember a person or event from history.
Memorial.
The day that all people in a country will be on holiday.
National holiday.
An official statement made by a person who has power.
Proclamation.
Showing no interest in.
Indifference.
A public meeting of a large group of people to support or oppose something.
Rally.
Understand it deeply.
Comprehend.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Genesis.
How did you get started on this project? What was its genesis?
Genesis.
We need to identify the genesis of this problem.
Genesis.
I'm studying the genesis of the feminist movement.
Appalling.
The way those poor children have been treated is just appalling.
Appalling.
I'm absolutely appalled by your behavior.
Appalling.
The service in that restaurant was appalling. It took 45 minutes for them to bring us our wine.
Legislative.
We can't just rely on self-enforced policy. We must find a legislative solution.
Legislative.
I don't know much about the legislative process in the U.S.
Legislative.
The president can't decide the laws. That's the responsibility of the legislative branch of government.
Resolution.
The board will vote on a resolution asking the president to resign.
Resolution.
The UN Security Council passed a resolution regarding the Middle East.
Resolution.
A resolution was introduced in the Senate supporting states' rights. We've got to take drastic measures. I think we should cut off his leg. This calls for drastic measures. I'm declaring a state of emergency. We've got to take drastic measures to cut our costs.